Welcome to another episode of the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast and Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is episode 21 of season 2 of the podcast. Still early on in our life as a podcast, only a year old, but we're going strong, and it's football season. This is prime betting football season, so if you're tuning in the last month or so, it's been focused on NFL, and that's where we're going to stay for the most part. But if you're a first-time listener, don't worry. NFL takes our attention here in these fall months, but we do expand and talk about other sports as time goes on. NFL is the big one. NHL, NBA, baseball, soccer, hockey, whatever sport we can gamble on or have interest on or there's news on, we'll talk about. So welcome for you first-time listeners, but thank you for everybody who's tuned in episode over episode every week. Appreciate it. And what we like to do during football season is have a show like today. Episode 21 focuses on the picks against the spread. I'm going to try to pick all the games against the spread, but also select my top 5. And then later in the week, we're going to drop an episode that focuses on the over-unders. We call them over-undies. And then props. So player props, team props, whatever it may be. We'll have a few picks for you, so please tune in and check for us a little later next week. You can follow the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast on social media, on Twitter, aka X, at Overrated EXPER2, and Instagram and Facebook at Overrated Experience. But all those options are available in the episode details from your podcast provider. And so here we go. What a wild weekend it was in Week 10. A lot to talk about, a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, a lot of things I want to discuss. So let's kick it off in a few stories coming out of Germany. Indianapolis facing New England. Low scoring, boring matchup. But the key thing is here, what's going to happen with Bill Belichick? Another loss, another ugly performance. Mac Jones getting benched for Billy Zapp. Nothing. We thought we would have, Bill Belichick that is, would have returned and lost his job as New England head coach. But that has yet to transpire, so maybe that's in the mix. Maybe that'll wait to the end of the season. But how long can Bill Belichick really last for the Patriots? This team is put together. Its roster construction is absolutely horrible, terrible. And I think it's time to go in a different direction. I've said this for a few weeks now. And if the Patriots do not, they'll be lost for many years. They're going to have to rebuild, full facelift. So Billy Belichick, respect the 6 Super Bowls you won in New England, but your time has come, it's over, and time for New England to move on. Some other interesting matchups. Joshua Dobbs, the man who had to be pointed to his locker room in his first home game with the Minnesota Vikings, takes out the New Orleans Saints, the desperate New Orleans Saints that had come off a big win the previous week and now lose to the Vikings 27-19. What is going on with the Vikings here? They're on fire right now. Joshua Dobbs' numbers, 268 yards passing and just outstanding. 44 yards rushing. And this guy's been on the roster for 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. And he comes up with another performance, a winning performance. He's the story of the year right now. The Vikings are 6-4. They're in the thick of things for playoff contention. Wild story. Can't believe it. If you're the New York Jets right now, why did you not call Arizona and offer a 6th or 5th round pick with the team you have? We'll come to that, but that's amazing performance, Joshua Dobbs. And then C.J. Stroud, I didn't think it was going to happen. But over 356 yards against the Bengals, against Joey Burrow. Burrow looked a little slow at the start. He winds up with 347 yards. But it's C.J. Stroud in contention, man. He's really taken off here. They win 30-27. Bengals come back and tie the game, and then here comes C.J. Stroud. 2-minute drive. Absolutely outstanding. This guy's the rookie of the year. No problem so far. Awesome performance, C.J. Stroud. Cleveland Browns walk in to Baltimore. Get smacked around a little bit early on. Basically, first play of the game, Deshaun Watson throws a pick 6. And it looked bad right at the start. They hold in there. They win 33-31. Just a That's why a tough divisional matchup with a 6-point spread is hard to swallow and hard to take. And Baltimore comes back down to earth. Tennessee, Will Levis comes back down to earth. 49ers take care of business. Lions smack around the Chargers a little bit. Chargers stay in the game. However, last-minute field goal. Lions win it. Kyle Murray comes back, gets a big win for the Cardinals over the Falcons. Falcons are going nowhere. Seahawks hold on to a 29-26 again. Late field goal. The Dallas Cowboys absolutely destroy the New York Giants. The embarrassment that they are, 49-17. Not even close. And the Raiders knock off the Jets. So many stories on that Sunday nighter that the Jets piss poor quarterbacking play, opportunities, flags. They're going nowhere on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is so good that it's a shame that Joshua Dobbs wasn't brought in, and the stubborn leadership of the Jets can't admit that Zach Wilson is not the alternative to Aaron Rodgers. He's not. He's simply not. So I don't know. I don't get it, and it's a big mistake that the Jets have made, and they're going to pay for it. Even though I do like them coming into Buffalo to cover the spread, but we'll talk about that as we get there. Denver upsets the Buffalo Bills 24-22. I mean, if you watch the end of this game and you have the Bills on, let's say, a parlay or anything like that, you know that Denver missed the final kick and then the Bills got flagged for having 12 men on the field. 12 men on the field. And then 5-yard penalty, bang, they kick the field goal, it's over. 4 turnovers in this game by the Bills. Josh Allen, horrible interceptions. Also helped by receivers with horrible balls to their hands. Fumbles. Bad decision making. And, Ken Dorsey now has lost his job. It's Monday morning. Offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, is gone. I guess he coordinated those turnovers. Horrible play by the offense. Josh Allen is playing with no confidence right now. He is lost. I think he feels the weight of the world on his shoulder. There is no way we're seeing the quarterback play that we seen 2 seasons ago when he was throwing dimes in, AFC, playoff action against the Kansas City Chiefs on 4th downs and 3rd downs and zipping 30-yard touchdowns with absolute confidence. That Josh Allen is slowly dying or something, because he is not looking like he did in the past. So hopefully this is a blip for the Bills. But, man, they looked horrible. And don't get fooled, Bronco fans. And I know that I sat here on this podcast talking about stop sending the comparisons of Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes and the stats. If you still watch this game, very few and far between did Russell Wilson want to go downfield. Look, he steps back, he checks down or runs. He got lucky on a pass interference. He just threw up in an all-out blitz near the end there to put the Broncos in field goal position. He is a shadow of himself, and the truth will come out in the next few weeks as they are pretenders to get in playoff action, back to playoff action or playoff contention. Russell Wilson will show his true colors as a washed-up quarterback and fail the Denver Broncos. Is that too harsh? Am I too mean by saying that? But I don't care. That's just the way it is. So we move on to the current Week 11 in the NFL. And we start off with a great matchup on Thursday night. We have Cincinnati coming off a loss against Houston, heading into divisional rival Baltimore to take on the Ravens. And we got 2 teams coming off a loss, 2 heavyweights in the AFC. But the question is, who is going to take that next step forward? The Bengals are 5-4. Ravens are 7-3. This spread's a 3.5-point spread. And it's a divisional matchup. What do we got here? I mean, the Bengals are plus 160. money line. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about spreads. But are you inclined to give Joey Burrow a chance? Joey B, your boy? Okay, Joey B. I'm not. I got to believe that the Ravens losing and the way they lost against the Cleveland Browns is eye-opening, and I think they're going to come to this game ready to fire, take over possession, control the matchup. Bengals reverted back to what we seen earlier in the season, struggling to be consistent on drives. I mean, their opening drive against Houston resulted in a touchdown, and they were kind of flat until they had the chase near the end, where they were forced to throw the ball. So I'm going to go with Baltimore, minus 3.5. I think Baltimore gets the job done. That offense does click, and I think the defense will step up. And Baltimore had some key turnovers against Cleveland. I think they'll clean up before they walk on the field on Thursday night. All right, so that's the biggest. That's one of the biggest games of the week, and a lot of mismatches coming into Sunday. But an interesting matchup. We have the Arizona Cardinals with the returning Kyler Murray taking on the Houston Texans, the surprising Houston Texans that are a 4.5-point favorite. How do you handicap this game? I mean, the Houston Texans just walked over Cincinnati, went into their house, got a big win, and now they're hosting. Is this a letdown game? Is this a letdown game for the Houston Texans? I mean, we've seen a letdown game when they walked into Carolina and basically shit the bed and gave the Panthers their only win of the season. So what I like here is I do like Arizona to cover this 4.5-point spread. I don't think the Houston Texans are going to run away with this game. I think Kyler Murray will make a difference. I like the idea of Kyler Murray keeping the Cardinals into this game. And so give me the Cardinals. Maybe it's a crazy bet, but I'll do it anyway. I'm feeling a little dangerous. Moving on to Chicago. No hope. I don't even know if Justin Fields right now is confirmed if he's coming back or not, but I'm going to assume he's not. Tyler Bagent probably going to be out there, and this guy's not ready to play in the NFL yet. This guy is running around scared out there. He's not making quick decisions. He'll make the nice check down, but he's not your guy. I don't see it improving on a Detroit team that is on fire right now. The only chance that Chicago has is somehow Detroit is overlooking the Chicago Bears here, which I can't see happening. I think Detroit showing up should cover the 9.5-point spread that this is. So I see this as being an easy one, easy cover. Let's go Lions. Cowboys, who just crushed the New York Giants, are a 10.5-point favorite on the road in Carolina. Honestly, Dallas has a reputation, in my mind, of picking. They're bullies. I mean, when they're faced with a tough situation against a Philadelphia Eagles or a San Francisco 49ers, they fold. They fold. When the chips are down, they fold late in the game against those big teams. But they go to town on these weak and wounded teams. And Carolina, don't get me wrong, I mean, they're looking at years down the road, but they're not throwing the ball downfield at all. They're allowing Bryce Young to, I don't know if they're really putting him in the best situation to develop, but what I'll say to this is that the Cowboys, man, they beat the piss out of teams like the Giants, putting up stats, Dak hitting CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys I don't see slowing down here as well. And I got to believe that they're going to surpass the 10.5-point spread pretty good. And I put this as one of my 5 top plays. Okay? So this is a special little star beside this one because this is, they're going to go to town. They're going to go to town. All right, so here we go. So we're on to our next game. Vegas, off a win against the New York Giants, take on the Miami Dolphins, who are coming off a bye week. Now, keep in mind, the Miami Dolphins only are coming off a loss against Kansas City. They got to be hungry. They have to be absolutely hungry. They see that the Bills are fading. The division's all theirs for the taking. How do they not come into this game looking to beat the living piss? Another game I'm going to say piss out of the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders looked okay against the Jets, but Aiden O'Connell, man, not flashy quarterbacking by any way whatsoever, and I don't see it. I don't see this setting up well at all with the Miami offense coming in and looking to get Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the rest of their weapons, yards and stats, and I think Vegas is in trouble here. So look for 11.5 points. Again, one of my best bets. No problem, Miami. The LA Chargers head into Green Bay to take on the woeful. I love those cliches. The woeful Green Bay Packers. The Packers are trash, guys. They're trash. They showed some life, I guess, against the Steelers last week. Couldn't get the job done. And the Chargers, could not take on the Lions. They could not finish the job against the Lions. So what does that mean? Well, what that means is that the Lions, I think the Chargers going to squeeze passes. 3-point favorite that the Chargers are. That's probably the right line here. But Green Bay struggles, and I do believe that the Charger defense that also has been struggling. I think what we're going to see here is we're going to see Mack and Bosa give Jordan Love give him some problems here. So let's go with the Chargers in this one, and let's move on. New York Giants, absolutely pitiful. The Giants suck so bad. Why would you watch this team if you were not a Giants fan? Why would you watch this team? Okay. They're horrible. There's no shot, even against the Commanders. Commanders put up a decent performance against the Seattle Seahawks. Couldn't come through near the end. However, I just don't see the Giants putting up any points in this game. Washington, 9.5. I know Austin from Ajax. Sam Howell's his boy. So let's give kudos to Sam Howell. All right? He had a solid game against Seattle. I was watching this game with Austin from Ajax. I got to believe on his Christmas list he's got a Sam Howell jersey, under the tree this year. That's like kind of the commitment he's made to Sam Howell. So kudos to him, but I think Sam Howell gets the job done here. 9.5 points. Washington is your play. Pittsburgh heads into Cleveland. Now here's the weird scenario here, is that you have a Cleveland team that had a huge win against the Baltimore Ravens, heading into Baltimore when other teams could not, taking out the Ravens. And then you got the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got past the Green Bay Packers, who got past the Tennessee Titans. I don't know how they do it. There's not a set formula on how this team does things, okay? It's defensively. The odd time Kenny Pickett comes up with a big throw. The run game is there with Warren and Najee Harris. But their defense is the bread and butter of this team. Cleveland had the game of their lives against Baltimore. Deshaun Watson looked better than he has all year. But doesn't Pittsburgh cover this? It's a 4-point spread. Do you really think this is going to be more than a field goal matchup? Divisional matchup again. Give me the side that's laying the points. Give me the side that's has a window here. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Give me the Steelers. No problem here. Covering the 4 points over Cleveland. All right. What do we do now, guys? What do we do now? Well, what we do in the Overrated Experience Sports Betting Podcast is you look at another game, and that is Will Levis, brought back down to earth, takes on the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have not looked good. And the 49ers pasted them last weekend. And Tennessee comes in here desperate for a win. Jacksonville has control. I would say control, but they don't want the Colts, sniffing around as the year goes on. The end of the season that they slip away or somehow give a window of opportunity. They want this division. But I say, again, divisional matchup. Why can't Tennessee cover the spread? I mean, Jacksonville has not looked great. They've been winning. They're the best team in this division. but they have not looked great. So give me the Jacksonville Jaguars give me the Tennessee Titans to cover this spread of 6.5. All right, on to the 4 p.m. games now. If you're wondering, just quite a few pauses in this podcast because I've got a few hockey games on the run. Now basketball as time goes on here on a Tuesday evening. And I'm just going to digress for a second here. The NHL is so goddamn hard to bet. Like, there's no rhyme or reason why, over-unders are happening, as far as periods. Like, I'll give you an example. The Calgary Flames and Montreal Canadiens tonight, I had them in a matchup where I not only needed them to have over 5.5, but also a live and play where I parlayed them to have over 3.5 goals. First period ends, no score. Second period, 3 goals. Third period, goal called off due to an offside, I believe. I'm not watching it, but it was called off. Can't do nothing. Can't score at all. A game ends 2-1. 3 goals in the second period, nothing first, nothing third. How do you see that coming at all? It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And then you have a situation where another game where I had a parlay where I had Tampa Bay and St. Louis live, and the game was 3-0 at the time heading into the third period, and I thought, well, this game's going to go over 4.5. And nothing is happening in the third period until late, where the Blues score at the 16:02 mark, up 4-0. And then for whatever reason, they score at the 19:18 mark to give me the fifth goal, which is amazing. But NHL is so tough to kind of get a grasp on what's going on. And you look at the Winnipeg Jet New Jersey game here. This game is 6-3 with 1:30 to go in the third period. It was 0-0 after the first period. They scored 5 goals in the second period. And like this, it's so up and down. Maybe there's opportunity to really take advantage of the live in play, but I don't get it. Like, it's hard. How would anybody bet tonight Washington shutting out the the Stanley Cup champion, Vegas Golden Knights, 3-0 at home? How is that possible? How are you gonna handicap that? So I just went off a tangent there because of the stress just watching that or following that. It really is watching the NHL. It's hard not to bet it because it's fast and it's pretty quick as far as the games, and there's 3 periods of action, but it's just, I don't know if it's the best thing to bet. So you tell me. Head to Overrated EXPR2 and tell me if you bet the NHL and if you see the same stress points that I hit. Anyway, we're talking football. Let me get away from NHL talk and talk about our 4 p.m. games. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Pittsburgh covering the 4 points against Cleveland is one of my best bets. Moving on to Tampa Bay, San Francisco, 10.5 point spread. I mean, the 10.5 point spread is based on San Francisco coming off the bye, destroying the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road, and it's almost like we've forgotten that they struggled for the previous 3 games. Brock Purdy no longer is the deadbeat quarterback that everybody thought he was, that they were not afraid to say after they went 0-3 prior to the Jacksonville game. Tampa Bay is really they're mediocre at best. Like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, no question. Can they cover the 10.5 points? Good teams are great teams. Good teams are going to find ways to win. Loser teams are going to find ways to lose. I'm not saying that necessarily Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are losers, but they're not winners either. So I better bank on the 49ers at the 10.5. So give me the 49ers. Now here's a contradiction because I just ripped into douchebag Zach Wilson many times earlier in the podcast about his continual performance and the lack of any sort of progress in his development as a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, there was fool's gold, against Denver and late against Kansas City. There's been a couple flashes, against the Giants where he allowed a big comeback for the Jets to get a victory. But you know what it is? The bar is so goddamn low for him. It is so low, like we're making excuses for him. That every single completion he has It's almost like a child. You're clapping. Way to go. Encouragement. Here we go. Like, the guy stinks. He, like, even in the Sunday Nighter, he scored a touchdown that was called back because he stepped out of bounds, that eventually the Jets had to settle for a field goal, which is huge, by the way, absolutely huge, that touchdown would have made a huge difference for the Jets and probably would have, put them, maybe they would have won that game. They probably would have won that game. He steps out of bounds. Like, a sane person, a guy with coordination, would not have stepped out of bounds and would have made a big play and would have scored a touchdown and built some credibility. But no, not Zach Wilson, not douchebag Zach Wilson. He shit the bed once again. But they're playing the Buffalo Bills right now, who are rock bottom. At least, they're falling fast. Josh Allen does not look like Josh Allen we know. I talked about that earlier. The Buffalo Bills just fired their offensive coordinator, Kent Dorsey, as the scapegoat. Absolutely pathetic. Sean McDermott, he knows that he's done. If this Bills team does not make the playoffs, which I don't think will happen, I think they're going to turn it around. Let's not kid ourselves. Josh Allen's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, despite the lull and despite the downturn in his play recently. But 6.5 points at home when they just lost to the Denver Broncos, pissing away, again, I'm using that word a lot, pissing away opportunity after opportunity, and you're going to go up against the Jets defense when you turn the ball over 4 times already against the Broncos defense. I like my chances that the Jets are also going to come up with multiple turnovers. Okay? And I got to believe this is going to be a tight game where the Buffalo Bills struggle to move the ball more than 2 or 3 times against the Jets. The Jets, again, will struggle to score as well. But there might be enough here where, the defense on Buffalo's side has been so injury-riddled that why can't the Jets scrap out a tight game here and keep it within 6.5 points? So you give me the Jets, and you're goddamn right I'm going to make this one of my best bets. Write that down. That's my 4th one. So the Jets to cover 6.5. Now, we move on to Seattle as a 1-point favorite into LA to take on the Rams. This is hard to cover. The Seattle Seahawks look good. They look decent against the Commanders. A lot of opportunities, I think, missed sometimes. They have weapons like Lockett and Metcalf that come up with some big plays, especially Tyler Lockett. That guy, that wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, I think he's underrated. And if he played, in Dallas or he played in New York, he would be one of the top receivers in football. He always comes up with a huge play, huge catches, big situational player. Man, I had the Rams down here as covering, but give me Seattle. I'm switching on the fly. Give me Seattle -1. Minnesota, Josh Dobbs, the story of the year, against Russell Wilson, 2.5-point favorite are the Broncos, the flop of 2022 and 2023, trying to regain that reputation. But will he? Will he gain the form that we know that Seth Curry, I'm watching Golden State basketball. Will he gain the form that we have seen? Will he play anywhere close to maybe how he played against Buffalo, which to me is still sketchy, but others might think he played well? Is the Joshua Dobbs train going to slow down in the thin air of Denver? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Joshua Dobbs, our boy, the story of the year of the NFL, is going to keep this train running. And I know this meme is played everywhere, online for every situation, but there's the scene at Wolf on Wall Street where Leonardo DiCaprio's character is supposed to resign his post at Oakmont Stratton because basically the heat is on. He's going to cut a deal so he has to do jail time. But when he gets up in front of the crowd and he has the mic in front of his hand and sees the people in front of him, and he says, "I'm not going. I'm not fucking going." And everybody goes nuts. That's Joshua Dobbs and his run. He's going to go into Denver. Is it over, Joshua Dobbs? I'm not going anywhere. We're going on a run. We're going to make it 7. Joshua Dobbs is your boy. He's going to do it. Eventually, he's going to fade. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not hitching my whole bank account to this wagon. But it's going to run on a little longer. Mr. Dobbs is going to take the Vikings, I think, to a playoff spot, but it's going to, get snuffed out probably early on. So take them on the Sunday nighter, Minnesota, with 2.5 points in your pocket. Huge Monday nighter. Absolutely huge Monday nighter. Rematch of the Super Bowl. Philadelphia takes on the Kansas City Chiefs. -3 of the Chiefs. I think this should have been more of like a 2.5 point. I think it's going to go down to 3.5 points. 2.5 points. I don't see how the line's going to stay the way it is. But what I'll tell you here is that I'm going to jump on. Okay, I'll tell you, if I'm going to make a pick for this podcast, I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes. I know that a lot of people, and I including myself, made the mistake of saying, hey, the Miami Dolphins are on a run here. It's their time. They're going to put up points against the Chiefs. Chiefs have no offensive weapons like they had in the past. And Kansas City was clearly the better team. Patrick Mahomes. There you go. Patrick Mahomes. He's the man. When I look at Philadelphia, obviously they're I'm going to say the best team in the NFC. I don't care about what Detroit's doing. Don't even talk about Dallas. And until San Francisco does it and they come into Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia with a healthy roster, then it's the it's the Kansas City, it's the Philadelphia's Eagles conference in the NFC. And most likely we're probably going to see a rematch of the Super Bowl, Kansas City and Philadelphia. But you're going to, if push comes to shove, I'm always going to take Kansas City from now on, especially in a line like this, unless it gets ridiculous. If this line for some reason went the opposite way what I thought it was going to go, not 2.5, but maybe even 3.5, when you got a tight matchup with Philadelphia, maybe that's when you take Philadelphia, because even a field goal loss, just like they did in the Super Bowl, is going to get you paid. But at 3, I feel comfortable. I know that's weird to say. It's weird to say because of what does it matter if it's a push if you took the Eagles, but I'm just saying that it get me thinking. I wouldn't necessarily take it. It would get me thinking if it was 3.5. But right now, my money's on Kansas City. Cover the 3. I don't like the 3. I probably want to hold out a little bit until I see 2.5, which I think is coming. So keep in mind, this is one of my best bets. But I'm going to probably hold off hitting that hit button until give it another 48 hours. And if it goes to 2.5, that's my play. So that's the Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. So just a quick recap: we like the Ravens on Thursday night, cover 3.5 over Cincinnati. Cardinals to cover 4.5 over Houston. Detroit to cover the 9.5 over Chicago. Dallas to smack around Carolina and cover the 10.5 on the road. Miami Dolphins return from their bye, and they cover the 11.5 over Vegas. The Chargers cover their 3-point favorite status in going into Green Bay. Giants get killed by the Washington Commanders. They cover 9.5. Pittsburgh covers the 4 in Cleveland in a tough matchup. Tennessee covers Jacksonville 6.5 points as an underdog. Tampa Bay does not stand a chance against San Francisco, who will cover the 10.5 point spread. The Jets will cover 6.5 points heading into Buffalo. Seattle, in a last minute change that I made as we spoke about this play, will cover the point. They are favorite over the Rams heading into LA. Sunday nighter, I like the Vikings and Joshua Dobbs to keep going. Keep going. Wolf on Wall Street. And Philadelphia heads into Kansas City as the matchup of the week. And Kansas City covers the 3. Now, I just want to point out something pretty obvious here, is that when you look at the teams that are on their bye weeks, Atlanta, Indianapolis. Atlanta, by the way, reports that Arthur Smith will be back for 2024 head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I don't understand why that. He's clearly... the team is drafting and constructing a roster, and he's, not using it. I don't know how that leads to success And all that's going to happen is that they're going to make a coaching change midway, if not earlier, next year. So just mark my words. He won't be there at the end of next season. He will not be there, and we're going to look back and think that you just wasted a year in Atlanta where you could have just read the rating on the wall and just get the cut bait now and move on to 2024, even if you go the rest of the season. But Atlanta's not playing this week. Indy off this week. New England, and maybe that will provide more time for Billy Belichick to potentially not be coaching the New England Patriots. And New Orleans, who no longer looks like have Derek Carr for a while, but we haven't seen the latest report. And Jameson Winston most likely will be quarterback when they come back from their bye week. But can you think of 4 teams that you would like to see less than the 4, or you would miss least? The Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, New Orleans Saints. Is there any team here that you were flipping channels to say, hey, I hope I see the Patriots in action right now? Unless you have money on it, on any of these teams, the entertainment value is all but zero for these 4 teams. So, goodbye. I don't give a shit if you're not playing, so maybe you should have multiple bye weeks. That's my 2 cents on that. So, that's what it is. My pleasure. The pleasure's all been yours. We're going to talk again later in the week. The Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast is over and out. Bye-bye.